Playing the Tour.
Andy Hampsten is America's hope. He remembers last year and his first Tour de France.
I was so depressed that I was just riding down the road and I was crying, and I had no explanation for it.
American Davis Finney got his macabre wish in his first tour.
I mean, I forget all those days when I was just dying. I was just absolutely dying. And I mean, I'm just slaving over my handlebars and just going, my God, I wish to God I'd crash so I could quit.
For American Bob Roll, even a crash wasn't a reprieve from his first Tour de France.
I couldn't sleep because I was so sore. I was just laying in bed, just looking at the ceiling all night long. Oh, that was bad. That was torture.
Olympic champion Eric Heiden never did finish his first and last Tour de France. The Tour de France is the ultimate test of the body and the spirit. These are men who train a lifetime just to finish the grueling 26-day tour. A race that up until last year was so dominated by Europeans that only 3 Americans had entered in 8 decades of racing. The pack rides together until one breaks away, lured by the coveted yellow jersey reserved for the leader. To wear it is to mingle with the gods of cycling. Have it in Paris is the dream of every racer. Last year, Greg LeMond became the first American ever to win the yellow jersey, and with it, his place in history among the giants of the road. LeMond won the yellow jersey in a titanic struggle with 5-time Tour winner Bernard Hinault. It was the American hero against the French legend in his last tour. LeMond and Hinault head-to-head, a 2-man battle over the Alps. And across the Pyrenees, 20 million fans along the road, another 1 billion watching on television around the world. The pressure nearly destroyed LeMond. It was Hinault's last tour. With tears in his eyes, Greg LeMond had made cycling history, an American winner on a French team. This too was history. The first American-sponsored team. Inexperienced kids, really, found out last year that the big time was not exactly a ride in the park. Of an ambulance parked on a French mountainside came a mission which has lasted a year.
Every day I think, oh God, I want to do the Tour de France. I can't wait. I'm positive. I'm positive.
For the 5th straight year, CBS Sports is proud to bring you one of the greatest sports spectacles on earth. This is the Tour de France. Normally, for the opening of our Tour de France preview show, we're on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. But not this year, because the most important story of this year's race happened 6,000 miles away from the Eiffel Tower, right here in Northern California, when defending champion Greg LeMond was injured in a hunting accident. It happened early one April morning, right here in this blackberry thicket. 3 men, completely camouflaged, out hunting wild turkey. 1 shotgun blast, and Greg LeMond took over 30 of these pellets in his back. The injury was immediately diagnosed as life-threatening, and it became a question not of whether Greg LeMond would defend his championship in the Tour de France, but a question of whether he'd live or die.
I heard this gunshot, but it sounded like it went off right in my ear. I mean, it felt like it was boom right there. And I look around to see who shot what. I look down and I'm holding the gun and I see my finger here bleeding. And I look at it and I go, oh God, I got hit. And I look down and I start, I mean, it's all this is all within 10 or 15, 20 seconds, but I started breathing and I couldn't breathe. And I went down and I started saying, I got hit, Pat.
Luckily for Greg LeMond, there was a farmhouse about 100 yards away from the thicket where his brother-in-law, Pat Blade, shot him. And fortunately, his uncle was at home at the time.
I heard 1 gunshot. And in 3-4 minutes, a brother of mine come running in, said that Greg had been shot, to call the ambulance, and he had to go get his, he has one of those small pickups. And while he went out the front door real quick to get the pickup, I dialed 911, reported to the emergency that we needed an ambulance or helicopter or whatever. Accidental gunshot wound, it was serious.
Deputy Kim Peterson got the call and rushed to the remote field where LeMond lay wounded. At the same time, a highway patrol helicopter on routine patrol, monitoring their radio, picked up the distress call and responded. The police car and an emergency medical unit got there first.
Greg had shot pellets in him from his feet up to his head. So the pattern was spread. If it would have been close, you know, it would have been a small pattern. It would have just blown a hole through his body.
Your instant thought is that you're going to die, and it's kind of weird. It's really weird. I mean, you think of everything. Like, my main concern, I wouldn't see Kathy or Jeffrey again.
It was almost fate for Greg LeMond, just 100 yards from a telephone in his uncle's house, the shotgun blast just far enough away not to be fatal, and the helicopter on patrol in the area.
Everything was a fraction away. I mean, I have 2 pellets in my heart lining that were 1 millimeter from penetrating the heart, and if that would have happened, I probably would have for sure died.
LeMond was rushed by air to the University of California Davis Medical Center, the helicopter saving about an hour and probably his life. Greg LeMond left the hospital a week later, but he was light years away from the sunshine of Europe and the glow of his Tour de France triumph. As irony would have it, Greg LeMond, so close to death only days before, returned to another hospital 2 weeks later, this time to see a new life begin, when his wife Kathy gave birth to their new son Scott. Greg's riding for a time confined to recreational jaunts with 3-year-old son Jeffrey. A time to think, a time to enjoy his family. And a time to think. Greg LeMond says he'll be back next year.
Oh, look at that!
Welcome back to the Tour de France preview show. I'm here, as you can see, in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower and only blocks away from the Champs-Élysées and the finish line for this year's Tour de France. That finish to take place 4 weeks from tomorrow. Now, when you think about cycling, you tend to think about individual stars out to win for themselves and by themselves. But that's not really the case, because cycling is a team sport. It has team game plans, team strategies, and each rider on that 9-man team has a specific role with one end in mind, and that is to get their leader across the finish line in Paris first. Last year, the dominant cycling team in the world, La Vie Claire, placed Greg LeMond first and Bernard Hinault second. They also had the 4th place spot with American Andy Hampsten. Now, with LeMond and Hinault gone, you might think that Hampsten would be the favorite. But no, that's all changed, because Hampsten has gone from the best cycling team in the world to the inexperienced American-based team, and that has taken him from being potentially the favorite to people wondering if he'll even finish in the top 10.
It was a really big gamble. Most people thought I left the best team and went to the worst team. This spring, we were racing for February, March, April, and half of May in Europe, and the experts, again, they were dumbfounded. Why did I leave the best team? Why did I join a bunch of cowboys?
The highly disciplined European teams use a full menu of tactics to support their leaders, like setting and controlling the pace to suit their stars, protecting him from attack, and shielding him from the wind to conserve energy. The team coach always stays in touch to talk about what's happening and what may happen. On a well-organized team, the support riders, or domestiques as they are called, know their job is simply to do whatever it takes to help their leader to win. Whether it be taking their turn at the front to punch a hole in the wind, or to drop back for water and food for their teammates. The domestique may also get a distress call from the mountain. A tiring star needs help to chase down a breakaway. And no team can win without strong climbers to give support in the mountains, or a refreshing shower in the blistering heat, or perhaps a new wheel, or even a bike. No sacrifice is too great for these unselfish men. Their goal being not only to have their leader freshen up at the end for the final push, but also to have their top support rider ready when he needs to do his job. Basic strategies for the domestiques are one thing, advanced tactics for the stars like Greg LeMond and his top lieutenant Andy Hampsten quite another. Last year, Hampsten's task was to help LeMond win the Tour de France. 2 Americans were racing on a French team, allies in a strange land. Hampsten's job was to pace LeMond on the long climbs. The friends and teammates held a strategy session on wheels in the Pyrenees, surveying the climb and making a battle plan. They had to dispose of the other riders in this critical mountain stage of the Tour de France. Hampsten was climbing like a madman in his very first Tour de France. LeMond and Hampsten had set a trap. Hampsten rode at the back, LeMond up front. Three riders sandwiched in between. It was time to find out what, if anything, the others had left. Hampsten the rabbit took off. Nobody followed, so teammate LeMond knew the others had little in reserve. LeMond could now move when ready and without risk. Hampsten had worked to break their spirits, while at the same time pulling LeMond away from his enemies. He continued to pace LeMond up the final climb. And Greg LeMond went on to win this stage of the Tour de France. Their plan had worked perfectly. It shows that 2 men working together can beat 3 others working alone. And as LeMond raced through the gauntlet near the finish line, Andy Hampsten, exhausted and spent from his explosive charge and from working all day to pace Le Mans, wouldn't arrive in time to hear the cheers of the crowd. But Greg LeMond would. A major step had been taken to get Le Mans the yellow jersey. For Andy Hampsten, it was a job well done. Greg LeMond did get the yellow jersey, and Hampsten, being on a strong team, would be rewarded with the white jersey as the best rookie in the Tour de France. But Hampsten yearned to be his own team leader, so he left the powerful French team to be the leader of the inexperienced American team.
I think he's got the capabilities of doing really well. I mean, when you get fourth last year, you don't do it on a fluke. But the thing that made him get fourth was our team.
The best thing for me wasn't the best team in the world. That was the expected route for me to take, to stay in the best team and try to become the number one on the number one team. But when I really listened to what I wanted and what would really help me, I found that I wanted to take a risk.
Our team is a very high-pressure team. I mean, if Andy was on there this year, man, he would have had the pressure to try to win. This year, with 7-11, you know, if he doesn't win, well, it'll be the team's fault.
I'm going to race to win, and I know that if I prepare myself optimally and I have the best support from the team, which I believe I have, then there's really nothing limiting me. Either I have it to win or I don't.
Well, what do you think of Andy's chances yourself? To win? No way.
The Andy Hampsten-led 7-11 team trained this spring in sunny California, thousands of miles away from the battlegrounds of European cycling. And while they enjoyed the comforts of home, they ignored the traditional way to prepare for the Tour de France. Stars like Stephen Roach didn't. His win at the Tour of Italy has made Roach the favorite for this year's Tour. But the 7-11 team didn't forget what happened to them last year. Their highest finisher was Bob Roll. He finished in 63rd place. But they had their moment of glory. 7-11 snatched the yellow jersey on the second day of the Tour, but lost it a few hours later. But that was last year and before Andy Hampsten.
I can't be out there just to say I finished the Tour de France. I would much rather say I was on the team that helped Andy Hampsten win the Tour de France than to say I finished the Tour de France. That's more important.
I mean, I need my team to believe in me, and I need support from people that I trust. But I really do like the underdog role. So it doesn't bother me at all when people say I've made a big mistake and I don't have this and I don't have that.
We'll take a look at this year's course for the Tour next.
And this is West Berlin today, a thriving centre of business and culture. It's surrounded by East German territory, estranged from the rest of Western Germany and accessed only by air or by driving along a 170 miles guarded corridor through the east. And it's here, outside the Reichstag building in West Berlin, where the 2,500 miles journey to Paris will begin. This was once the home of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich and a governmental seat. Now, really, it's nothing more than an exhibition hall. But the Tour de France organisers, you know, wanted to link East Berlin and West Berlin. What they really wanted to succeed in doing was punching a hole straight through the Berlin Wall. 26 years ago, that wall was assembled, and since then, many people have died trying to flee here into the West. In fact, only last night, 2 people came over, and they are now free people. The Tour de France has negotiated for over 2 years with the Eastern authorities, and one of the reasons given for the recently failed negotiations was that the Eastern cyclists, the East Germans and the Soviet riders, simply couldn't prepare well enough for this marathon event. It does seem that although the Tour de France here in the West can stop cities, it can stop trains, it halts traffic, it even stops people. It is yet to find a way to breach a hole in the wall. Yet. So Berlin's payment of over $1.5 million has persuaded the organisers to start in a foreign country for only the 9th time in 74 editions. West Berlin is the farthest point ever away from French soil. The opening prologue time trial, a race for the man against the clock, is an hors d'oeuvre of 4 miles to find the first leader. It uses the city's most famous shopping streets. It's also a chance for men like American Andy Hampston to flex his muscles, although by Paris it may seem insignificant. On Thursday, the city streets of West Berlin will be seen at their best as the first road race stage covers almost 70 miles as it goes around on a circular course. It's the sort of day the riders hate. A large field on narrow roads, a touch of wheels, a crash, and Paris may be another dream. Next day, the riders fly out of Berlin to Karlsruhe, and then they start a 2-day journey to France. There will be no racing on Friday. The weekend will be spent mostly in Germany, covering 250 miles near the French border, before finally crossing into France at Strasbourg, a town which once belonged to the Germans. And from here, they head out across hilly farmland. The professional cyclist's working day will start at 9 o'clock in the morning. It will finish approaching 4 o'clock in the afternoon, having averaged 130 miles a day. And each day, the leader, who has covered the distance so far in the shortest time, wears the yellow jersey. These opening days are not for the mountain climbers, and as the field passes below Paris, still 19 days away, the greyhounds of the sprint finish will try to make time on the rest. Even the giant sunflowers are bashful as they turn away from the colourful spectacle that will speed by. During this opening 2 weeks, a sprinter like Ireland's Sean Kelly, world-ranked #1, will be active here. But will his Spanish cast team be strong enough to help? And if there's a favourite for the Tour, then it has got to be Dubliner Stephen Roche, who recently became the first English-speaking rider to win the Tour of Italy. He has the advantage of one of the strongest teams around him. It may be too that after 12 days there is no obvious candidate for the vacancy left by Greg LeMond, last year's American winner. But by day 13, when the race leaves Bordeaux for the coast of Bayonne, the natural border between Spain and France, the Pyrenees Mountains, will no doubt produce one. It was here a year ago where 5-time winner Bernard Hinault won the leader's yellow jersey and left teammate Greg LeMond feeling he had already lost the Tour. The mountains are full of danger. Britain also has a serious contender in Scotland's Robert Miller. A past king of the mountains, he finished 4th in 1984. He rides on the strong Panasonic squad. A teammate of Miller's is Phil Anderson. After a season going downhill, the Australian's back to form. After the Pyrenees, the survivors have a few days of undulations in the hottest area of France. with temperatures at over 100 degrees. Then comes the race's most difficult period, the Alps. North Dakota's Andy Hampsten is a natural climber. He'll welcome the dizzy heights on the Swiss borders. He was fourth last year and won the white jersey as best newcomer. He is what the French call an angel of the mountains. But on the 7-11 team for the first time, will they be strong enough to help? French hopes rest with Laurent Fignon, who has twice won the Tour by riding strongly in the Alps. Since then, he's been hampered by injury, and last year gave up in the Pyrenees. This year, Fignon has shown signs of his old form by finishing third in the Tour of Spain. He's managed by Cyril Guimard, who's coached 4 Tour winners. For those who leave the Alps are still in the race, they can think now of the Champs-Élysées in the centre of Paris. There will be just a time trial at Dijon, home of the famous mustard, and then the last stage of 119 miles to take them home. Berlin by now will seem a very long way away. The final reward, a yellow jersey, which has become the most coveted symbol in world cycling. And what last year brought Greg LeMond fame and fortune now awaits a new owner.
And that new owner might have just dropped out of the sky at the Tour of Switzerland this week. We'll be back with an extraordinary story. This is not last year, it's not last month, it's not even last week. It was only days ago, the Tour of Switzerland, one of the world's major stage races. Andy Hampsten won here last year with a strong French team. Now he's back to prove he can do it again with his new American team. We're in the 9th day of this 10-day race. Hampsten is 12 seconds behind the overall leader. And this is the last critical mountain stage, and perhaps Hampsten's final chance to claim the yellow jersey.
By this stage of the race, there were only 2 teams left in contention for final victory. The Panasonic team from Holland and the 7-11 team from the United States. It was soon evident that the Panasonic team were not going to let Andy Hampsten out of their sight. And they hoped to put Peter Winnen ahead to gain the 8 seconds he was behind. The team chose to keep the pace high and prevent the surprise attack, forcing Hampsten to follow while most of the rest fell behind. In fact, the Panasonic's tactics had knocked out everyone except Hampsten as the last climb began. Then, with half a mile to go to the finish, Winnen took his chance because he knew that with the yellow jersey far behind, he needed just 8 seconds lead on Hampsten to head the race. Last year's winner, Andy Hampsten, wearing number 1, struggled to limit his sudden losses. He should have expected the move, but the Panasonic riders had played their ace, and time was running out for Hampsten. Approaching the finish, Winnen forced every ounce of energy out of his body. A second extra now could make all the difference between the lead and second place. After Winnen crossed the line, Hampsten, third in this group, is only a few seconds behind him. But how many?
How many indeed? Did Peter Winnen pick up the time he needed, or did Hampsten hold on? 8 seconds had separated them this morning, but for the moment at least, Winnen and Hampsten were more concerned with something far more basic, like catching their breath. And the finish had been so close that nobody really knew who would take the lead.
Well, they weren't giving much information out here on the radio.
But one thing was certain, yesterday's leader, Dietrich Terral, was too far back to hold the yellow jersey. But who would get it, Hampsten or Winnen?
Good job, you do your best.
First word back was that Hampsten didn't have enough to take the yellow jersey. At least that was the unofficial word from his coaches.
7 seconds?
Andy, just watch. We don't know the exact time. Just on our watches. We don't know where they took the time.
Andy, you want to wait here? I'm going to go down to the finish line.
It's within a couple seconds.
Moments later, the official results came in. Hampsten had become the overall leader by 1 second.
Yeah. Well, sweet. Andy, good job, buddy. Thanks, Raul. All right. All right. Oh, yeah. Let's go.
He would carry the yellow jersey into the last day, but a 1 second lead against a powerful Panasonic team was certainly not a margin of comfort. The next and last day of racing promised to be an all-out war.
Oh, I mean, tomorrow we got our work cut out for us. A lot of work.
Okay. This is like a smaller road. That's a really small road.
Races are certainly not won by chance. Like any team, strategy and planning are essential. The Americans established their game plan for the final race.
Panasonic has no other chance except winning. So they're going to help control the race at the front because they're not going to let Parla go. They're not going to let Giovanetti go. They're not going to let anybody go except Raul winning, because they're going to try and get their second as we're coming into Zurich. And it might get really rough in this first sprint. It might get really rough at that point. So, Bob, you need to be the policeman for Andy and be right with him and don't take any crap from anybody. And make it known, you know, that we're not going to get boxed in and boxed out, and we're going to protect Andy to the fullest. And, Jeff, is your bike pretty close to Andy's measurement-wise?
Yeah, it's real close.
Okay, well, you got to remember, you got to sacrifice your bike if he has a flat, any problems. That means you have to run close to Andy all day. If we let them control the pace and get the lead there, we're sunk. Because, you know, it'll be in the city, it'll be winding, and we'll be sunk.
Nestled high in the Alps, something more of a street fight is about to begin.
If anybody tries to get rough with Andy, then we're not going to stand for it as a team, and especially myself.
A special sprint will give the first across this line a precious 10-second bonus.
If I'm in the position to go for the gold sprint for the 10 seconds, then I'll try to take it away from winning.
That 10-second bonus would mean a victory for winning, and Coach Peter Post knows it.
The race not so hard today. No mountains.
We're in the 20th century. It'll be nuclear. It'll be pretty bad.
Just as Mike Neal, 7-Eleven's coach, predicted, the blue jerseys of Panasonic were soon in action to achieve their main objective, to help Peter Winnen take the bonus sprint that carried 10 seconds. The 7-Eleven strategy was a simple one, because they knew that if they could prevent Winnen from taking the sprint, then Hampsten would win the race by that single second he gained the previous day. Panasonic manager Peter Post was near the referees, checking on the positions of Winnen and Hampsten. As the sprint line approaches, Jonathan Bowyer speaks to Hampsten. Encouragement or strategy? Has Panasonic picked up a new team rider? Winnen seems to have found a new ally. This is the time when the blood pressure increases as the riders, after 1,000 miles, think not of the finish, but of an innocuous line midway through the day that would decide this 10-day race. Australian Alan Piper was the man Panasonic chose to build the speed up to its maximum as the sprint line approached. Then, with Piper and Turau drafting Winnen, it seemed that Hampsten was about to lose the Tour. In a battle usually reserved for the great finishes of the world's major races, Winnen burst to the front, but on the right, 7-Eleven Grand People makes a last effort. The photo finish showed he'd won by 2 inches. This had turned out to be the greatest and the hardest day in the life of the 7-Eleven team. All they had to do now was keep an eye on Winnen, and their finest hour would arrive.
Now was a Zurich Velodrome and a ceremonial final lap. Andy Hampsten and his 7-Eleven teammates had held on to that slim 1-second lead and were now able to enjoy their finest hour.
Let's get in there. All right, good. Let's be here with this. Yeah. Hooray, buddy.
And when Hampsten donned the yellow jersey for the second year in a row, the victory belonged as much to his team. The Americans were no longer rookies in Europe. They had won their first stage race. and had gained the respect of the cycling establishment, perhaps their most important weapon for the upcoming Tour de France. And a victory for Andy Hampsten on this year's tour no longer seems that far-fetched.
This victory is very significant because I think it's the first time, it is the first time an American on an American team won a really major stage race or even a major race. And I think it's a big stepping stone, and it shows America that we can do it as a team.
And teamwork made it happen when Ron Kiefel nipped Peter Winnen to prevent him from grabbing the 10-second sprint bonus. The victory Kiefel's as much as Hampsten's.
I saved the race. There's no doubt about it. If I wouldn't have been there, Winnen would have got the sprint. But, you know, that's why we were all up there.
You know, no one could beat us. I think it's really cool that last year I won this, the first American to win it, but this year I came back with an American team, and it's really proven that right now cycling's an American sport. It's no longer an outside sport.
We'll find out if an American team can win the ultimate struggle, the Tour de France. And 4 weeks from tomorrow, we'll be here in Paris with the answer. For Phil Liggett, I'm John Dockery.
And John Dockery and Phil Liggett will join us again next week as the Tour de France kicks off. And throughout the month, they'll be documenting the grueling race and sharing with us the emotional highs and lows that make this 2,500-mile odyssey such a special event. But right now, we are approaching fight time here at the Forum in Los Angeles. Former WBC World Bantamweight champion Albert Davila against current NABF champ Frankie Duarte, who recently lost a controversial